It's all good. All right, 2 more minutes, boys and girls. Finalization of the news and now weather, and we're ready to go. So, all right, folks, if you have a question, care, thought, or concern, 301-694-9363. You need to text it in or call, and we will definitely get that today. So we definitely want to hear from you. All right, here it comes. Got a fly in here.
Don't forget, you all can adjust however you want the heads, up and down, individual. Just a reminder in case it's too loud, too soft.
They located Palmer in a parking lot suffering from severe traumatic injuries. They began life-saving measures until medics arrived, but Palmer was pronounced dead at the scene. Police say the shooting is under investigation, but they believe this is not a random act of violence. Then on Saturday, a U.S. Navy band will perform a free concert in Booth.
All right, folks.
The performance will take place at Schaefer Park at 2:41.
Oh, this now does this?
7 p.m.
Yeah, you can go up or down.
Performing is the U.S. Navy
Oh, wow.
band Country
That's what
Crows,
Frank was just.
the only country
Oh, okay, that's
band
what this is now.
in the Navy.
Good.
I'm Kevin McManus, WFMU.
Gotcha. And now you got the little board. Got something different to play with, huh? Totally different. You like it? Yeah. Yeah. There we go. All right, good seeing everybody.
Tomorrow for Sunday, showers are likely. Showers possibly a thunderstorm after 11 a.m. and a high about 83. Sunday night, showers and thunderstorm below 68. PJ's Roofing. When it comes to your roof, they've got you covered. Visit pjsroofing.com. I'm Jim Tice.
This is your Frederick Real Estate Update, a conversation about the regional real estate market with tips for buyers and sellers.
All right,
Your host,
here we go.
Remax Results, Darren Ahern, and Presidential Mortgages, Terry Cook.
Hey folks, welcome back to your Frederick Real Estate Update. I am Darren Ahern, bringing you over 20 years experience in the Maryland and Southern Pennsylvania region, and also with me, the one and only from Presidential Bank Mortgage, with all that money in the vault. I don't know if it's all in there or not, but
Still in there.
Mr.
Karen.
Hey buddy, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Okay, all right, we're going to get into the numbers and everything. Phone lines are open, 301-694-9363, or you can also text in any question or comments that you have, but we definitely like to hear from you, no doubt about it, because what is ever on your mind is important to us. And so, all right, Terry, here we go, July the 8th, and shout out, this is my stepfather, Nick Bethman, who was in my life for a long period of time, from the time I was about 12 or 13 until he passed. He would have been 91 today, 91
Wow.
years old.
Wow.
So, yeah. But one day I'll see him in heaven. And so, yep. So, shout out to my mother. I know it's a little bit of a hard day. And, you know, Terry, I was thinking about where we were for his 60th birthday. I still looked at the picture, and we lived in Ocean City. And we used to fly the banners, and we had our stores in the boardwalk and our boat down there when they had the old boat motel where all the condos are, where Shantytown used to be in West Ocean City. So for anybody that remembers back in the early 90s what life used to look like in Ocean City, that was part of my home
Trader
sweet
Lee's
home.
Beer Garden.
What's that?
Trader Lee's Beer Garden.
Yeah, all of that. So, yeah, I was thinking about all that, and I was thinking about this very day, the party we had and all the fun we had and all the fireworks out on the beach when we would, see that from the stores and all that, and a lot of good memories. And so that was one of the highlights. And he also, for a while, drove the tram when he was in his 72 years old or whatever for a while. Drove one summer, him and my mom drove the tram that goes up and down the boardwalk, and all. I got to meet a lot of people. And so,
Very cool.
yeah, a lot of fun stuff. All right, so July the 8th, show number 312. Let's get into the inventory. Wow, it's come up a little bit. I'll tell you, we can't break 300, but we're at 273. Last week we were at 260 and 162 Resale homes in the county, we had 142. We've been averaging a little bit more. So we're up a tiny bit. Days on market, 37. So that's staying pretty stable. We were as high as 42. And that was more so towards in the fall. We're at 37 right now with a median price of $555. New construction is down 111.
Okay.
Yeah, we used to
Losing
be.
inventory is what they're doing.
Yeah, so new construction 111. Coming soon to 61. We've been staying right around that area quite a bit. Pending on a contract, 511 with 201 brand new homes under contract and 310 resale, with an average time of 19 days on the market. And in the last 30 days, we've had 368 sales, which is definitely about half of the amount that we normally would have, with an average time of 15 days and $575 price. But the big thing we talked about before that our listeners need to know about is the sold to list price is at 101.4, which is a huge indicator. Back in the fall when things were flatter, when Kenny McLean, one of our appraisers, was on, talking about the market and how the dip was and all that stuff like that, it's so true that during that time, we got down, if you remember, about 98%, 97.5%, 98%, and I thought, no panic button until we get below 95%. And we've been hanging at almost 100 to 104%. And so what that takes into account, a lot of people need to know, Terry, is that some properties are obviously getting above asking price still by a margin, and then there's some that are getting below asking price. But when you factor those all in, the majority of the market is still doing above the list to sold price. And some of that is the fact that a lot of us real estate agents are very smart about this market right now and about advising sellers that if you literally overprice your home, it seems like by a penny, you're going to be on the market more than that 10 or 12 day time frame to be able to make a pivot and move. And therefore, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be not good for you. So I think some of that is definitely happening. One of my sellers I just had this last week, we had a contract deal fall through. Buyers walked away, got cold feet. It was at asking price, the actual price.
Don't hear that.
With no closing, no nothing. They walked away with cold feet, which was ridiculous. But people can do what they want. My sellers were a little bit concerned. I said to them, don't worry, here's what I'm going to do. And as we remarketed it, and I did some things like that and gave some strategies in place, lo and behold, we had two other offers. One of them came in, Terry, check this out, $20,000 above the asking price with a $20,000 appraisal gap, which we've not seen in a long time. And the terms and conditions were great and perfect. So therefore, my sellers now are really excited. They're really happy that that buyer walked away, because they're looking at the possibility of getting, and I think it will appraise fine, and they're looking at the possibility of getting $20,000 more than they would have gotten just a week ago. Now, is this an unusual situation? Everybody say yes. Like yes, yes, yes. Is it because I'm the good real estate agent? Maybe, probably not. I don't know. Don't want to go there. I just simply say, look, things happen. You put the right strategies in place. You just never know what's going to happen out there. And it's so far working out for a better situation for my sellers. And they're extremely grateful, not only because of what's transpired, but they also know what's in the news. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that. So I'm going to let you open it up, excuse me, by me saying this. Terry, do you remember when we were kids and we went through that neat little phase where we were asking our parents over and over about everything in life, why?
Yes.
The biggest thing we ever want to know is, well, why this, why that, why this, why that?
And the biggest thing is, when are we going to get there?
When are we going to get there?
Then it was why?
Why? And then, as you're a parent, you've had some children, and I've got a whole bunch of them. Remember the phase when our kids did this to us, the very thing we did to our parents. Why? So today, just like last week, I said, why is it so important to have buyer representation and have a good agent on your side helping you? Today, we are going to ask the question, why in the world is something this last week happening that is like, hello, as an adult, we're flipping out asking why. What's going on, Terry?
So I've said it on the show many times, is fear breeds fear. Enthusiasm breeds enthusiasm. And I'm sticking to that because what happened this week, and what's happened the last 2 weeks, is, so I was not on the show last week. but the week before I talked about what was going to be very, very important. And the two things that I talked about was number one, jobs,
Okay.
and number two, inflation. All the other figures are going to be looked at, but really not calculated when determining whether they're going to raise rates or not. Okay. So here's what happened this past week is the biggest volatile day that we've had in a long time was Thursday. Rates went up, the bonds went way up, everything kind of went crazy because ADP, Automated Data Processing, ADP, everybody knows ADP. ADP's job is to estimate what the jobs report is going to show the next day, right? So they kind of come in and they estimated that what we're taking a look at is they came in and estimated that there was going to be 497,000 new jobs created.
Okay.
When in fact the forecast was at around 228. And so pandemonium kind of set in. Fear breeds fear, pandemonium breeds pandemonium. Pandemonium sets in, everybody kind of goes nuts, rates go through the roof, and boom, on Thursday we hit a 20-year high. Think about this, Darren, a 20-year high in interest rates. We're over 7%, we're up at 7.25%,
Right.
and I'm going to go over some numbers. So what ADP did was they basically estimated that was going to happen. So what do you think happened the next day? Next day is when they actually came out, and it was actually Friday morning, the jobs numbers came out, and there was only 209,000 jobs created, but the market took ADP's number and caused such volatility that when the real number came out, they were kind of like, well, we're not going to correct anything. So the stock market still hit 200, almost 200-point loss. Rates continued to rise a little bit. So what we had basically, and I'm not going to say everybody says fake news, but ADP underestimated, and that caused a tremendous amount of panic in the market, thinking that the jobs. Now, I said that two things are going to really determine the rates, and number one is going to be the unemployment rate, and that was at 3.7%, and with the new jobs that were created, it dropped it down to 3.6%. So the market for jobs is still strong, okay?
Yeah.
Still stronger than expected, but the jobs that were created were a lot less than what caused the volatility on Thursday. So the bottom line is the last 2 weeks, we've seen rates steadily go up. And the reason they're going up is because of the fear that the Fed is going to raise rates again and keep raising rates till this job market is broken, okay? And to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense because look at the numbers or inflation. So this Wednesday is going to be a big, big day in the market.
Okay. Yeah.
Circle it on your calendar, the 12th. Okay. Wednesday morning, CPI, Consumer Price Index, is going to come out, and that's going to direct, my belief, it's going to direct the markets and it's going to direct the Feds on what to do next. And what's going to happen, in my opinion, is I think that we're going to continue to see a even or a slight cooling of the inflation, and we're going to see a correction in the market on Wednesday. Could be wrong, but I think that that's what is going to happen. Is the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, is going to come out Wednesday morning. Look at that number, watch what the markets do, and my belief is that the bond market will correct itself. It's so overpriced right now that it's crazy. Think about what I said 2 minutes ago. We're at a 20-year high.
That blows my mind.
Last time rates were this high was 2003, okay? Where are they going to be, okay? What are they going to do? I think that we're going to see a correction, okay?
What does that mean when you say a correction? I guess my question was the Fed meets on the 26th coming up. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. What do you think is going to happen if this has nothing to do with the Fed getting ready to meet and possibly raise interest rates again, and it's not being baked into the pie. And this is all these other factors that have caused these last week or two to go up as much as they have, and now hit a 20-year high. What are your thoughts? What's the Fed going to do that we're hearing about now coming up? I know we're a little ways off.
So if I'm on the Fed board, I would take a look at what CPI and the PPI, the Producer Price Index, are next week.
Okay.
They have, and they don't promise us. They tell us, right? They say, going forward, we're not going to raise rates. We're not going to lower rates. We're not going to adjust rates. We're going to study the data, and then we're going to make the decision at that point. So what the market is doing is they're baking in that they're going to keep moving the market. But let's take a look at the CPI. Let's take a look at the PPI. Next Saturday, we'll talk about it, and we'll know kind of a direction. So when I mean that there's room for an adjustment, okay, or a correction, is I think that the bonds, have raised, and that causes our rates to raise. And I think our rates are so overpriced right now that there is room to improve if the news comes out as expected or a little better. Now, if the news comes out that inflation is rearing its head again and it's coming back, then we're going to see 7 3/4 by next Friday. Okay.
Okay.
If that number comes out really high, I believe it's gonna hurt the market. So am I telling you to float? If this was me, if it was me, if I just bought a house this past Friday, I would not lock in my rate until I saw what the CPI was doing. Now, take in mind that rates will come down in the next 2 years, okay? We're at a 20-year high right now. They got to be lower than where they are now. And the presidential election, I think, is going to correct a lot of things. So we're going to see a tremendous amount of people going with adjustable rate mortgages. We're going to see a tremendous amount of people having to pay points, okay? Why do they have to pay points?
Yeah, I'd asked you that. I think it was this last week, or a couple lenders, and I had said, yeah, what is up with this? What is up with this whole? Explain that to our audience, because we went so long where everything was no points, and so explain what points are and why it's such a more standardized thing, if you will, at this point, and how that affects everything. Go ahead.
Okay. A lot of people are listening today and they say, I've never paid a point in my life.
Oh,
Okay?
good. Yeah.
So what is a point? A point is what we charge you to borrow money, and you have what's called par. So if you're any golf knowledge, par is 72. So anything above par costs points, anything below par is a premium, right? So what we're taking a look at is when you had 3% interest rates, when you had 4%, when you had 2.75, when rates were low, nobody paid points unless they were going to buy their rate down.
Right. Okay.
1 point equals 1% of the loan amount. So we're going to use a couple of things here. We're going to take a look at $400,000. Okay, that's the loan amount. $400,000. 1 point is 1%, or $4,000 to get the rate to buy it down. Generally, to pay a point, you are buying it down by, if you pay a point, $4,000, you'll buy it down by 1/4% in interest rate. So if I'm at 3 1/4, $400,000 loan, I say I want to pay a point, I'm going to get 3%. I'm going to lock that rate in because I know I'm not going to move or I'm not going to do anything. And basically that is buying the rate down. That's okay at 3%, 3 1/4%. So my recommendation is pay the least amount of points as possible. But here's what's happened. Rates have gone up so fast.
Yep.
And so furious that the investors, people that invest that's lending you this money, the same people that were lending you the money at 3 1/4%.
Right.
They don't want a 7 1/4% interest rate on their books, right?
No.
Everybody wants a 7 1/4% interest rate on your books. You would think. Everybody listening is going, why wouldn't a bank want 7 1/4% interest rate on their books?
Yeah, they make more money, doesn't it sound right?
Makes more money. So if they pay if they pay us, if they pay, these are the people that we sell the loans to, Freddie and Fannie. If they pay us to create a 7.25% rate, the margin is going to be very small, and we're going to have to charge a point just to get the 7.25%, because they know that they don't want that loan on their book, so they're going to pay a very small commission or margin to the people selling it. And because they know that 18 months from now,
there's a good chance that these
loan's
people
gonna be gone.
It's going to be gone. It's going to be off their books because it's going to be refinanced.
So there was higher margins to sell a 3% loan.
Wow.
Then there is a higher margin. Then there's a much lower margin to sell a 7.25% loan.
Which it seems it's flipped. It seems like it's just totally illogically backwards. But that's the truth of the inside of how it works with mortgages.
Yes. So the investors they know that these loans are going to be on their books for a very short time.
Yep.
So they're going to decrease the margins and increase the amount of money that you have to pay to get it.
Okay, makes sense.
Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay?
Oh, that's good. What you guys just heard is huge. This one you may have to dig really deep in YouTube videos to even just find what we just talked about, because this is kind of like we just put the curtains back pretty deep, right, Terry?
The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz just came out.
Secrets, okay?
There you go.
The bottom line here is that don't panic.
Yep.
Don't be afraid. What I'm telling people is, if you are at 7.25%, okay, and if you're at 7.25% and you're locking in at 7.25%, we can also take a look at an adjustable rate mortgage at 6.75 or whatever. But this loan is not going to be on. If it's not going to be on Fannie and Freddie's books for very long, that means you're going to refinance in a short amount of time. So let's take a look at what I usually advise people. Is number one, have a nest egg, okay?
Okay.
Don't exhaust all of your cash, because when you exhaust all of your cash and you move into a new house, you're all of a sudden it's like, okay, we need a deposit for this, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need to do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have no cash. My mortgage payment is about $600 more than I wanted to pay. So what I say is, create a nest egg, have reserves. I look very strongly at reserves. How many months can you get through? Somebody says, well, that payment's $300 more than my budget is. And I'll explain to them, look at 3 years of $300 a month payment, right? If you're uncomfortable for $300 a month, figure in the next 3 years you're going to be able to refinance that loan, okay? So that's $3,600 a year. So that's basically $11,000, almost $12,000 that you're taking a look at to have as a nest egg to help offset that payment. So let's go over a couple of numbers, and I know I've taken a little longer, but
that's good.
$400,000 mortgage. If you refinanced 2 years ago, or if you bought a new house 2 years ago, at 3%, there's a lot of people under 3%, a lot of people up, 3.25%. But your principal and interest on a $400,000 mortgage at 3% was $1,686. Today, at 7.25%, that same mortgage of $400,000 is $2,728. Over $1,000
more
a month.
Yep.
Think about that.
A year. That's
the buying power that you would lose. So let's talk about if rates come down during the general election to 5%. They're predicted to be in that 5%, 4.5% range. If it comes down to 5%, that payment of $2,728, principal and interest only, not taxes, not insurance, and you can refinance at 5%, it would drop to $2,147. So you would save about $600 2 years from now, okay? So don't sit on the sideline because rates are high. Be prepared to carry that high rate for 3 years, okay? It'll most likely be 18 months, right? But prepare yourself for 3 years. If you don't have it, prepare yourself for at least 2 years, you'll get the opportunity to refinance, and you'll save that $600, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To do. So I'm not saying, yeah, wait till the rates come down, because as soon as the rates come down, what's going to happen is there's going to be a bottleneck trying to get these homes, because the demand is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, rates down, demand
When rates
goes
come
up,
down, demand's going to go,
which means
through the
inventory is
roof.
not going up. But as these rates, and we just saw it, we're at 273. We've come up 20 homes in 1 week. And at this pace that we're going on, Terry, I do believe we could go above 300 now pretty quickly. The way things are now, I really do.
Yeah. So there's one last stat that I want to read to you.
Yep.
And this is just, it's amazing. 82% of the people surveyed feel that they are locked in to their current mortgage at whatever it is. And I don't mean locked in as in they feel like they cannot sell their house because that gap that I just talked to you about, the 3% to the 7.25%, is too high to absorb, and they're going to hang in there. So 82% of the people out there are not selling their house because of the current mortgage that they have, and they're going to hang in there. So that goes back to what you and I are saying. Somebody gets transferred, somebody's a first-time buyer, yada, 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 all the way up the ladder. But 82% of the people that own a home now don't want to sell because of their current interest rate.
And it was that high, I believe, Terry, when we were back at 6.25, not 7.25. It was like that. This is just adding insult to injury at that point.
Yes.
What would you say about adjustable loan? The reason why I want to talk about this real quick, that's really important in the last few minutes here, is number one, we have a buyer we've been working with, $7,000 of affordability away from buying their dream home with a barn to put horses on and everything. They're this close because of so many different factors, but one of the saddest factors is the fact that I had asked you, I said, when rates were at 6% or 5.5 or 6 just 3, 4, 5 months ago, could they have bought this home? And the answer is, well, yeah, they could have afforded the price that the for sale by owner is asking. The for sale by owner guy is not coming off his bid. He wanted to rent it. And what's really unique for sale by owner, this house has been on the market for over 30 days. If I got a hold of it or any other agent, you already know this would have been sold already and then some, and probably for more. But the unique scenario of it really goes back to our buyer that, man, oh man, it's like this close, and now it becomes affecting affordability. And an ARM loan, you know, in some circumstances, whether it's this one we're dealing with or others out there, is it even, what are the stipulations that would be beneficial? What has to happen for an ARM loan to be able to bridge that gap and get somebody into a property, whereas with an FHA or conventional or whatever, they wouldn't be able to?
One of the hardest things that I have to explain to a borrower is the adjustable rate mortgage is really not a bad loan, okay? 2008, 2009, 2010, all those loans that crashed, there were so many bad adjustable rates that were like, they call them exotic mortgages, that were just bad, and they were out there. So ARMs have a bad name. Our number one product at Presidential Bank right now, the product that we sell the most, is our 7/1 adjustable rate mortgage. People are looking at that because you're locked in for 7 years. It's safe, and in the next 7 years, we're going to be able to refinance.
And that's a lower interest rate than the 7.25.
It's usually a half to 3/4 lower than
Right.
the 7.
So that could be at 6.5 or so potentially.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and that makes sense. And
Yes,
so
ours
therefore,
is at 6.5%, and yes, so that helps tremendously.
does that have additional fees versus a straight out conventional or FHA or VA loan for an ARM loan? Is there a difference in fees to get that beside that whole point?
There's that 1 point, but everybody's paying a point with every loan right now.
Okay, so there's no difference like, wow, this is going to cost me $5,000 more to be able to get this great lower interest rate by 3/4 or a half.
No, it's basically the same pricing, just a lower rate.
All right.
That's our number one product.
All right, and that's what people want to know. We got 2 minutes left. Here we go, Terry. The home I got under contract, I saw in their thing, it's 20% down conventional loan, and their rate, Terry, was 7.20 for this loan that we just accepted. And then to me, I'm thinking, didn't seem to bother them at all in that regard in this situation. But I do have buyers that a number of them now this week, as you can imagine, that has been difficult to deal with in sense of them asking what is going on and wait a minute, should I hold off? Some of my buyers, it's the first time they've actually considered, should I hold off completely from buying? We've heard your program, Darren. We know you're smart. We know this. But now we're starting to realize, should we just hold off? Because now they're thinking, well, if rates are going to keep going up, which we're hoping they just don't, that they're actually going to flatten out and start to come down. I said, there's a lot of moving parts. I can't tell you what to do. But yes, I can absolutely validate your feelings of, wait a minute, is this good to do right now? Is this making sense with everything?
You're a popular guy.
So I know I get 50 calls a day, Terry, if not sometimes more. So that's the hope, is that they'll come down over time. So my biggest thing I want to share in the last minute here is this: how does 7.25% rate now affect affordability? Well, we know it takes away purchasing power from a buyer, which that's where you can evaluate. 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, you could afford $500,000. Now you can do $460,000 or whatever it is. That's on that side. But I told everybody months ago, and if you go back to my programs, this is really important. For every 1/4 point increase in interest rates, I've always recommended to my sellers, since we were at 6.5, now it's 3/4% higher, to evaluate the asking price by 1 to 2%, which means now up to 5 to 6% less than you would have put the home into the market just previously at a couple months ago. And so now when rates go up, consider, instead of say that $500,000 asking price, based on the data and other factors, if those weren't in place, $490 would make sense in the mind of the market, if you will, to be at because of the 725. So, hey guys, next week we're going to continue this conversation. We want to hear from you. Take care. Have a great, great weekend. Happy buying and selling from your Frederick Real Estate Update. Take care now. Good to see everybody. Hope you enjoyed the program. Let everybody know we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We are uploading more and more, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care. God bless. Have a great weekend.